What's going on, everybody? So today I'm going to be showing you how to do your 100-hour and 300-hour maintenance on your Mercury V8 Pro XS. The reason I wanted to do a video on this is because there's really not that many out there of doing maintenance on a Pro XS, or at least an in-depth video on it. There's plenty of stuff on Verados, but I figured I'd take you through the process while I do my 300-hour maintenance and my 100-hour maintenance. Down in the description of the video, I'll have like part numbers, and also like intervals if you want to skip through a section in the video. Like maybe you want to look at something like the water impeller, because you can do everything else, or the dry belt accessory. So let's get started. The sticker on your Pro XS is going to tell you what you need to do for certain intervals. I'm at 300 hours, or roughly 300 hours, 3 years. So I'm going to be doing this, as well as, you know, to replace the engine oil and filter, and the gear case lube, as you should be doing yearly. And we're also going to take a look at some other things that you might not look at with the 100 hours. So to get this whole process started, what you're going to want to do is take your prop off. Once you get it off, you want to take your prop, pull it off, set it to the side. And then what you're going to do is take your motor titer off and trim it all the way down. Once your motor's trimmed down, now we're ready to drain out the oil right there. Before you open up your oil drain valve down on your lower unit, you're gonna wanna just air this cap out so there's less of a suction when you go to open it. Right here's where you're gonna wanna drain your oil. Mercury calls for a 7/16 inner diameter tube to be able to slip over that. It just helps a lot. You don't need a tube, but it's gonna save you a lot of mess. You're gonna need a 5/8 inch wrench here, and we're gonna wanna crack this loose a little bit. Also, reminder, stated in the manual, you don't wanna overturn this. It's like 2.5 turns. You don't wanna go farther than that, because you will mess up the seal inside here. So we're gonna crack this loose. We're gonna take our tube and put our tube and then, yep, here comes the oil. You're gonna wanna let this drain for a little bit, because there's 7 quarts in here. So there we go, as you can see it coming out. As you're letting your engine oil drain out, we'll do the filter later once that's done draining. Gear case lube will also do afterwards, because we're gonna also need this pan to drain that out. So on your Pro XS, you have 2 anodes. You're gonna have one right here, the circular anode, right above where your prop is on your lower unit. And you're also gonna have one right where your motor mounts to your transom or jack plate. This is what mine looks like after 3 years. If you're inspecting yours and you're at 100 hours and it looks like that, you're completely fine, as long as it's still in one piece and looks good. Since I'm at 300 hours, I'm gonna be changing mine out. That one looks even better. So if you're at 100 hours and they look like that, you're good to go. You're gonna also wanna inspect your thermostat, which is right here. And all you're gonna wanna do for this is take a 5/16 inch socket, and you're gonna wanna loosen these up, take them off. You're gonna wanna undo the hose here. When you get a thermostat kit, it comes with another hose clamp, so you don't have to worry about that. Right now, my thermostat is the only part back ordered, so I'm not gonna be taking this off right now, because I'm gonna run my boat this weekend, and then once it gets here next Wednesday, I'll put it on. But it's super simple. Like I said, 5/16. Take these 2 bolts out, take this hose clamp off, take it off, put your new one on, put it all back on, and you're good to go. Next thing here is your spark plugs. So you're gonna wanna inspect them just to make sure they look okay. You're gonna wiggle these out of place. Once you wiggle them out of place, you're gonna need an extension for your socket to get up in there, because they're pretty far in. So here, once you get your spark plug out, you're just gonna wanna inspect it. So my motor is at 300 hours. I inspected them every 100 and they look fine. This now, since it's at 3 years or 300 hours, I'm gonna be replacing all 8 of mine. You be the judge on what yours look like. Usually once you start to get this little copper colored ring around here, you're gonna wanna replace them anyways. And obviously you're gonna wanna take a look at the ends of them. So yeah, these are on their last life right here. So what I'm gonna do is, you don't need to put anti-seize on if you don't want to, because if you're not using your boat in salt water at least. I'm gonna put it on anyway, just because a little preventative maintenance doesn't hurt. I just replaced all 8 of my plugs, and yeah, all you gotta do is put your plug covers back on. Make sure they're in tight. Don't be afraid to push on these things. There you go. You can sort of hear them go into place over the plugs. So the last thing you're gonna wanna do is inspect your lower pressure fuel filter, which is this guy right here. The 2 hoses with the red tabs. I actually like to replace mine every 100 hours, even though you're only supposed to replace it every 300. If you're gonna inspect it and take it out, you might as well go through the trouble. They're not too expensive, some good preventative maintenance, and replace this guy. This right here is what you're gonna wanna get to replace that. There's the part number right there. And like I said, description below. What you're gonna wanna do first is you got a plug right in the bottom. You're gonna wanna fold that tab back and pull that plug off. So because I need 2 hands to do this and I'm by myself, what you gotta do is push in this red tab and then use your other hand and pull this off. And you're gonna wanna do the same thing with this one. And then this fuel water separator actually spins counterclockwise to unlock. So once you get your second hose off, you're gonna turn this counterclockwise and then it'll lift right out. And you're gonna have some gas in here. Whoops, just spilled a little bit. Try to be careful taking it out. And you're gonna want to dispose of that properly. Then you're gonna take your new one out of the box. It comes with a little instruction manual, but it's pretty straightforward. This red cap is always gonna go to that end. So you pop that thing off, take it, and see the seat down there? You're gonna line that tab up with the seat and then rotate it. All right, as you just saw, right down there, locked into place. So now we can take that hose and put it on, and then take this. Or you're gonna wanna do this plug first, actually, just to get it out of the way. So we'll do that, the plug, and then this top one. So once you get that all strapped up and back into place, just make sure you dry any excessive gas. And then that's that for the low pressure fuel filter. So that was everything for the 100 hours. Now for the 300 hours, since I already showed you to do the spark plugs, you just want to replace all 8 of your spark plugs, so we can cross that off the list. We did our low pressure fuel filter, so we can cross that off the list. Now we're going to do our accessory drive belt. Now remember, even because I'm moving on the accessory drive belt, this is still draining. It's draining slow, it's getting there, but we're gonna keep letting that go as we work on everything else, and then we'll worry about the oil filter too. So these are the tools I'm gonna be using to change out my serpentine belt on the motor. There's the belt part number. You don't gotta worry about the 57. It's 8M0218433. And then this here is a tool to help turn your flywheel up on top to work that new belt back on. Mercury does make a belt stretching tool, but you really don't need it. It saves you an extra 60 bucks, but this does come in handy. So to get to your alternator belt, the first thing you're going to do is take your flat head and loosen this hose clamp. You're also going to want to take your dipstick out, because you're going to move that dipstick tube to the side. Once you loosen the hose and you pull your cover off here, you can completely take it off. Just, there's a hose right here. You can just pull that off. So then that whole thing comes off. I accidentally pulled that off, but that's okay. Set that to the side. So take your dipstick tube, pull it, and it rotates around. You're going to want to rotate it. And you're going to take your orange cap out of your flywheel. So here's a close-up. Here's that out of the flywheel. Move your dipstick tube to the side. And then right here's your alternator. So what you're going to want to do with your alternator is you got 4 bolts you need to take out. You got one right here, one right here, one right here, and one right here. They're 10 millimeter. Once you take out all 4 of these 10 millimeter bolts, you can just lift up on your alternator, and that loosens your belt, and you're going to want to slide it off. There's the bottom ones, a little bit shorter. All right, there's the last bolt. Now, like I said, all you're gonna wanna do is lift up on that alternator and pull that belt out. There's the belt right there. So you're gonna take your new drive belt, obviously make sure you're putting it in the right way. And what you're gonna wanna do is lift the alternator, just get your belt around the back of it. Once you get your belt around the alternator, you're going to put these bolts back into place. Once you have all 4 bolts back in, and you make sure your belt is around your alternator, you're going to start your belt partially on your flywheel, and you're going to put your flywheel tool in with your 1 1/16 socket and start turning it, and it'll work itself onto here. All right, so once you turn the flywheel, you just really got to use a lot of pressure with your hand, but it'll stretch on. So once you get that on, take your orange cap, replace it, make sure all your bolts are down tight, and you can swing your oil dipstick back into place and lock it back in. So here's the old belt, you can just trash that. You're gonna take your dust cover, slide it back on. Make sure you put your hose back on the back part. Once you get this back on, make sure you tighten this up. Don't forget to put your dipstick back in. So now that we did our alternator belt, what we're gonna do is, now that that's done draining, come over and you're gonna wanna remove your oil filter. Once you remove this, it might spill a little down into this reservoir here. So get yourself a funnel, or maybe make a funnel out of half a water bottle, because once you take that cap off, it can sort of make a mess, and it's a pain. So let me get this off and I'll show you what I mean. Gonna unscrew this oil filter. Try to be quick with it once it unthreads itself, and turn it back. Yep, because that's what it does right there. All right. So here's your oil filter that you're gonna wanna use. That's your part number right there. So you can take this guy out of the box. And don't forget to, A, take off the plastic, but B, put a little bit of oil on that gasket so it doesn't dry up on you. See, this ain't gonna hurt. Then put that back on. And something I like to do is I'll actually take like a silver Sharpie and I'll write on it when I changed it with how many hours I have. So there it is right there. So this is what I'm talking about. Just like cut half a water bottle and put it under there, so when you take that cap off, it's gonna catch all that oil, because it will make a mess. Work that up under there. Take that yellow cap off. Cap off. There we go. Just to get the oil out of that little catch reservoir there. So then once you do that, put that plug back on. Just a little bit of oil that we don't got to clean up off the motor. Now that we have our filter off and this is all drained, we can pull our drain hose off. Take our 5/8 wrench and tighten this back up. This is what I like to use. It's the 10W30 synthetic blend. You can use regular or the 2540 depending on where you're at in the country. I'm pretty sure the 2540 is for you guys that are in like Arizona and stuff like that. All right, so now that we got the oil added and everything good to go on this part of the motor, we can throw the cowling back on, and our job is done for the top. The only thing that's left is the lower gear lube and the water impeller. So before I drop the lower unit, what I'm gonna do is drain the lower unit lube. So you're gonna undo these bolts. Do it while you're trimmed up so crap load of fluid just doesn't start pouring out. The other seal came off with the bolt. This seal is still on there. So I spilled. Trim all the way down and let all that lower unit fluid drain out. All right guys, so once you let all that drain out, you're gonna screw your lower unit pump for your lube into that bottom hole. So when I start to pump it, I like to keep my motor trimmed all the way up. This is what I'm putting in, just a Mercury gear lube. Here it comes. And then what you wanna do is just keep pumping until it comes out of that top hole. So once the lube comes out of that top hole, you can put your new seals back on and put the bolts back in, and you're good to go. All right guys, so we have 5 bolts we got to remove here. They're 3/4 inch nuts on here. Those are kind of setting posts on both sides for when you put it up there. Got those 2. And then we also got to take out the anode right here. So I'm gonna start out by cracking all 4 of these loose. I'm going to take the anode bolt out first. Crack that free. All right. Try not to lose your washers. Got the washer and the nut off the first one. Just so you guys can see the best, I'm going to probably leave that one on for last until I'm ready to take it off. So I'll take this side off real quick. All right, here's the last nut and washer. So now I'm gonna trim this up just a little bit. Probably should have did this before, but I wasn't thinking. All right, so got to be gentle with this pristine condition skeg. All right, you see how it's starting to separate right here? So it's coming. There it goes. All right. And I put the cooler as my second set of hands to catch it. So pull this guy out. All right, so there we go. Got this thing out. I'm gonna put it in our little makeshift stand here. All right guys, so once you have your lower off, you got 4 10mm bolts on here. You're gonna wanna start by taking them off. And here's our 4th bolt right there. So then you're gonna take this piece off. It's a little nozzle that locks into place when you put your motor back in. So here's the kit with the part number. It comes with your impeller, comes with the plate, the 2 gaskets, and it also comes with some new O-rings. You got an O-ring in here, and then there's an O-ring that's still inside the motor. I'll show you then. And then it comes with 2 new rubber pieces and also green strips, which kind of seal off the plate. So what you can do is remove this this guy up. Look at that. It's all deteriorating, all the old gasket material. So set this guy aside. And this impeller actually looks like insanely good. That's crazy. I expected it to look a lot worse. So you got your impeller here. You got your key, which also comes with the new kit. And then you can take off the old wear plate. Toss that. And then here's an old gasket. You're gonna want to scrape this guy off. This is the bottom plate. Might be a little tricky to get off. He's getting there though. Come on, there we go. Toss that, got a spare. Then you gotta take this guy out. Once you have this gasket popped out, you're gonna want to clean this up just a little bit. Clean this up just a little bit as well. And these little green strips we get in the new impeller kit too, so we could take these out because we're going to reinstall them. So it doesn't matter what way you put these things in, just they're the same on both sides. Also want to mention that the other old gasket is underneath this guy. You're going to pull them off, and it's included in the new kit right here. So we're gonna put that back on. And here, this is what I mean. So this stuff needs to line up the right way, or it needs to be face down the right way. Otherwise the holes aren't gonna line up. It's pretty easy to notice, obviously. So flip that over, and there we go, lines up. So got those two gaskets. That. And then we're going to take our metal plate that goes right under our wear plate. And Mercury actually sells guideposts, and you put them in, you put two in, and you slide everything on top of the guidepost, and it keeps everything nice and straight for you. I can't find mine, so we're doing it without it, and I'm sure most of you are too. But if you have them, it makes it a lot easier. So then we put on our metal wear plate. Then we're going to take our last rubber gasket here, put that on. There's like a glue on the top. You want to put that glue side facing upwards so the impeller housing rests on that. Alright, so now the fun part is lining up this keyway with your impeller. Doesn't matter really which way you put it on. Your keyway, here's a little trick real quick. So we're just gonna take a little bit of this grease and we're gonna put it on that flat side where the key's gonna go. This right here, you got the grease on. Take your key and place it right on there. Once you have your key on, you're gonna slide your impeller down and line it up with that key. First time's a charm. And then you're gonna take your new, sorry, not new, you're gonna take your old housing because you don't get a replacement one of those. You're going to take out all the old gasket. We're going to go and slide this thing on. And remember, it's already lined up with the key, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to work this by turning it clockwise. And since we don't have the guides, it's going to move the gaskets a little bit. So that's okay. So when you're twisting your prop shaft, initially it might move your gaskets just because your water impeller's fins are sticking out a little bit. So if you need to, what you can do is once it's spun on right, lift up your housing just a little bit, because you want that impeller to stay lined up with that key. You don't want to lift it too high. But if you lift it up just enough where you can realign all of your gaskets and wear plates, it would be a lot easier. You'd be able to twist it no problem with the guides on there. So that's starting to go down. Once you get one of those first holes lined up, you can put the bolt in to act like one of the guide pins. Same with the second. And the third. And the fourth. So now all our gaskets are down and lined up. Now we can tighten all this back down. So once you got all that back on, this little piece here that was sitting right here, that's what sends the water up through the engine. You're gonna take a flathead and just get that orange seal out of there, and we're gonna put a new one in. You get that orange seal out, you can take your new one and work it into there. It's pretty easy to get in there. All right, put that back on. And then we also have this guy right here. So this is a face seal, and this is just a tool that's used to seat that down onto there because it's a little tough to work down like that. So where you take your lower unit out, this is your shifter. Don't touch that, don't move it. You got another O-ring right there. This is where your shaft goes up into your motor. You want to get this O-ring out right there, because that is where that sits up. So we're gonna take that one out with a screwdriver, put this new one back in. All right, so that new gasket is now up in there. So all this is together. Now we can slide this back up. It's the fun part. Also, before we put this back in, just gonna put some grease on there. So what you want to do then is, hopefully your splines are still lined up. There we go. And wiggle it back into place. Like I said, you want to keep a nut and washer in your pocket. So you can, this is basically your helping hand because it's going to hold it on for you. All right. So once you got that one on, you can start putting all your others back on. Now we can start tightening these back up. forget about this guy right here. Once you get that 5th bolt all tightened up, you can take your anode, and like I said, 10mm Allen wrench, line it back up, tighten this anode up. Now we can just put our prop back on. Actually, before we put the prop on, take some grease. Sort of keeps the, what do you call it? This keeps the prop hub from seizing to the splines. Take our prop. Put your prop back on. Get your nuts and bolts. Get your block of wood or your prop stop, put it on this side this time. And then a 1 1/8 inch wrench is what you need to tighten this back up. And then once that's tightened up, you're good to go. And that's all it takes to do a 100 or 300 hour service. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope this helped you out. Like I said, if you have any questions, just DM me on Instagram, message me on Facebook, comment down below. But other than that, I'll catch you guys next time.